Hi, everyone. Welcome to the EduFinance breakout room session. My name is Natalie DAVIRRO. I am the Monitoring, Evaluation, Research, and Learning Lead. I am based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I've been at Opportunity EduFinance for 4.5 years now. I'm originally from San Francisco Bay Area, and I actually started my career on the institutional funder side. So I worked in Washington, D.C. with USAID and the State Department, managing small NGO grants. But I decided after a few years that I really wanted to be closer to the work that's actually happening, not managing from far away in DC. So I moved all the way to the other side of the world. And so now I am in Nairobi, Kenya, doing just that. Over to you, Lordina.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. My name is Lordina OMANHENE-GYIMAH, and I'm the Deputy Head Education Specialist with Opportunity EduQuality in Ghana. I'm a French teacher by profession, and I have been teaching with the people we would consider as the last mile, low-fee private schools in typical rural areas in Ghana. I'm in my seventh year with Opportunity EduQuality. I joined in November 2019 because I wanted to make a lasting impact, and here I am, 7 years on. Thank you.
So I know everyone is already hopefully a little bit familiar with what we do here at EduFinance, but to give a little brief overview. So we like to say that there are two arms of Opportunity EduFinance. The first is focusing on improving access to education and also access to finance for schools. And then the second is focused on improving quality of education. So sometimes we say this as getting more children access into better schools quality. So our Education Financial Products program works to facilitate access to finance through school improvement loans and school fee loans to parents, while our EduQuality program focuses on the quality side. So what's happening inside the school, inside the classroom, and training teachers and school leaders in how to improve, ultimately hoping to drive learning outcomes for students. So together, these two arms work together. One ensures schools have the financial resources to grow, while the other ensures that this growth translates into real improvements in education quality.
And talking about education quality, what we do is we do three major activities with these schools. Now, the EduQuality program is a 3-year journey that we onboard low-fee private schools in marginalized communities. We take the school leaders through the school leadership and professional development sessions, where we take them through ways to manage their schools effectively, financial management, school management in total. And then on the teaching side, we take the teachers through the teacher mentor professional development, where we train these teachers on classroom management strategies, literacy, and numeracy. Then we bring the school leaders again for the School Leadership Academy, where we train them on financial literacy, budgeting for a school year, and anything finance related to running a school. So there are three things we're doing with the schools: meeting the school leaders for professional development on school management, teachers for teaching professional development on classroom management and literacy, and then the school leaders for SLAs, financial management.
So as I said earlier, I lead our monitoring and evaluation team, and M&E, we call it. And what we really focus on is measuring the quantitative impact of our program. So most of the numerical stats and figures that you will see in the impact report come from our monitoring and evaluation data. So one stat that I want to talk about, because it's my favorite in the report, is 58% of teachers improved their teaching practice when compared to the previous year. So 58%, at first glance, sounds like a modest improvement. It's just over half of teachers improved their teaching at the end of our program. But when I think about how this is actually measured, I think this is an incredible result. So I want to talk about how we actually measure this. How do you actually measure improvement in teaching practice? What does that look like? So the way that this works is we have a large team of monitoring and evaluation specialists who spend all day, every day visiting schools. So someone from our team will visit a school and request to observe a lesson, and they will sit in the back of the classroom and observe the entire lesson from start to finish. They sit back, they observe quietly, they don't interrupt, and they record every single detail of what's happening during that lesson on their tablets. And they're looking at a really specific set of criteria. So they look at first, are there materials available like chalkboards, textbooks, desks? Is the teacher actually using these materials? Does the teacher have a lesson plan? How well structured is that plan? Are they allocating time of the lesson to content well? What percentage of the lesson was dedicated to discussion or group work versus lecture? And our team actually has a timer. They use their phones to actually time the number of minutes dedicated to discussion versus lecture. They look at, are the teacher explanations clear? Are they setting expectations? And also, importantly, is the teacher checking whether students actually understand the content before they move on to the next topic? So all of these components are scored at the end against this standardized rubric. And this is how we measure whether teachers have improved. So when we say that 58% have improved, that means that more than half of teachers are improving across all of these criteria. And this is, I think, an incredible result when we think about how difficult these changes are to make. Teachers are working in really, really large class sizes. And it's also not just teacher mentors that we're observing, so teacher mentors that have actually attended our training. We're also observing teachers that have actually never attended a training from us directly. They may have only just been trained from their peers. So all of that going into this score and the stat, 58% represents a huge shift in classroom practices and better support for student learning happening every day.
Okay, so now let's talk about some practical stories. And I need you all to picture this. Imagine being a teacher in a marginalized community with limited resources. You want to further your education, but no plan in sight for that. That is what the USAID and Opportunity EduFinance were doing for teachers like Simon also. Now, Simon is a teacher mentor in future preparatory school. And over there, most of the teachers were motivated by the plan of Opportunity EduQuality to link them to a university in the northern region so that they could further their studies. And as you all know, when the USAID funding came crashing down, funding was cut for them. Most of the teachers on that program were losing their interest. They were no longer actively participating, and the learners were being affected. But what Simon said was, okay, I have learned positive behavior management strategies from the Opportunity EduQuality program. I have learned simple and easy ways to create teaching and learning materials on the program as well. So he decided to train the rest of the teachers in his school on simple ways to create teaching and learning materials. He decided to train them on positive behavior strategy. And through that, most of the teachers decided that, okay, they are now going to actively participate in the program. And this was ensuring that every learner in the classroom is positively behaved because positive behavior, positive relationships improve learner outcomes. And once all these teachers were doing these with our learners, we were seeing improvements in the learner outcomes. That was thanks to Simon, who took the initiative. So now let's talk about Latifa. She's a teacher in Boho Primary School in Northern Ghana. She's in a typical marginalized community where the girl child is at the basic level, at the lower end. Now, Latifa, just like any other teacher mentor on our program, was taken through phonics and literacy trainings during the teacher mentor professional development session. She learned simple and easy ways where she could train the girl child on easier ways to read and write at a lower age. Now, through these exposure and this learnings that Latifa learns, most of the girls in her school have been motivated. There's been a learner enrollment in her school, especially on the girl side. And Latifa has taken the further initiative to enroll in a university, learn easier and simple ways to teach phonics, literacy, and numeracy in her school. And this is impacting the learner impact in the classroom, is improving learner outcome in the classroom. And teachers like Latifa and Simon are together making that impact, bringing us to the numbers of our 58% that Natalie has spoken about.
So I want to talk about two more stats from our impact report since I spend all day looking at stats. This is what I'm passionate about. So the first one is these two are both going to focus on the second arm of EduFinance that I spoke about earlier, which is access to finance. And specifically our School Leadership Academy, which is providing training for schools in how to apply for loans and how to make sure they are eligible for loans. So as part of our monitoring and evaluation program, we conduct surveys with schools that attended the School Leadership Academy workshop before they attend, and then 3 to 6 months after they attend. So the first stat is that we find in Ghana, 67% of the total School Leadership Academy participants had never received a loan before. So this means not just any loan from our financial institutions. They've never received any type of formal loan before in the past from any bank. And the reason that this stat means so much to us is that not only do we want to ensure that schools who are already borrowing continue to access loans so they can continue to grow, but we also want to get new finance into new schools who were previously unbanked. And so 67%, two-thirds of the participants, this means that our School Leadership Academy is reaching the right schools. The second stat, and this is actually not in the impact report, but another really important one, is that after those, we want to know what happens after the workshop. Are schools that actually attended our workshop and learned what are the steps to take to access a loan? Are they actually accessing the loans after the workshop? Do they take the steps to apply for a loan, open bank accounts, become registered, improve their financial record taking? Do they take steps to apply for a loan and become loan eligible? And we find that yes. When we follow up 3 to 6 months later with schools, we find that out of all the schools that had successfully received a loan post-workshop, 54% of those were first-time borrowers, meaning they had never received a loan in the past. So more than half of these schools that are previously unbanked are successfully receiving a loan. They took all the steps that they needed to become loan eligible, they applied, and they were successful. And this is not easy to do in just 3 to 6 months' time. So I'm very proud of all of these schools, and Lordina will talk about more about them.
So the beautiful lady you're seeing in red is Madam Harriet Kwashi. Now, Madam Harriet Kwashi, just like any other school leader that's on our program, had plans for her school, and her school is the New Corporate Academy. She wanted to set up a STEM lab, and STEM will now be science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now in Ghana, we don't have a lot of these laboratories around. And Madam Crash is just like any other school leader was wondering how she was going to do that. In came the School Leadership Academy, where schools like New Corporate Academy were given training on financial management. In that financial management training, they identified ways that they could easily apply for a loan. When Madam Kwashi took the bold initiative to apply for a 500,000 loan. Now her school was linked with the Amenfiman Rural Bank in Western Region. She applied for the loan. The beautiful edifice you're seeing behind her is the STEM lab for her school New Corporate Academy. She has ICT equipment, she has all the computers she needs, and she's enrolling the learners in the community into STEM. And she's expanding. She's allowing other children who are not students in her school to come and experience the STEM. Thanks to Madam Harriet for this initiative, and thank you, Opportunity EduFinance, for that as well.